Welcome back to a voiceover of 9 holes here at Sri Selangor's back 9, the Pulai 9. Today we're starting off bright and early. Let's get some stretches in, and we're gonna talk about how you can also shoot the best scores that you have shot so far, whatever that may be, and improve your overall scoring. Some tips that you can take to the golf course for your next round of golf. Starting off here, hole 10 is a par 4 narrow tee shot. I'm going with the 3-wood here, as you could tell based on the last few seconds. It's early in the morning and I have not hit the driving range because there isn't one on this golf course, so we're gonna have to make do with what we have, going with the forward for the safer play. I think you can tell based on their reaction was not a good shot, but that is the first tip of the day. Don't forget that you're not going to hit perfect shots, so we're gonna hit the club that's gonna give us the best chance to stay on the fairway, stay dry, and stay in play. As you can see here, even though I did not hit the perfect shot, I hit it towards the wider side of the fairway, and I know that for this fairway, everything bounces from the left to the right. So knowing that, aiming to play more towards the safer side, which is the left side of this fairway, even though I hit a bad shot, I still left myself with a good approach shot into this green. So always aim for the widest part of the fairway. If the course has a lot of slope and a lot of undulation, use that slope and undulation to your advantage rather than trying to play against it. Always pay attention to your surroundings because you can get a lot of information just through your eyes. Even if you've never played a golf course before, chances are you can see the direction of slopes. Always use all the information that you can get, whether it's through your eyes or through your feet, to your advantage, because golf is hard enough. We should do whatever is in our ability to make it easier.
Go there.
So the next tip that we're going to talk about is how longer isn't always better. So for this hole is playing 306 yards, I would have to really smash it, hit a downhill slope for a chance for me to get on this green. However, doing that brings so many different hazards into play, especially if I'm trying to hit it really hard. So always consider what you are bringing into play by trying to pull off certain shots and whether or not it's worth it. If you can reach this green in one, and especially for this hole, if your shot shape favors a fade and you're feeling comfortable over the tee, then I would say it's worth it every now and then to try and pull it off. However, for most cases, it is most likely better for you to just lay up to a comfortable distance and bring all the unnecessary hazards out of play. I think an important thing to remember with regards to this tip is that there are many different ways to make a birdie. The next tip that I'm going to give you is quite a general tip, but I think that it's one that is pretty important as well, and that is to pay attention to the lie. I think you can tell from this video that the ball is quite a bit above my feet, meaning that the tendency for this shot is to draw. Even though I did not notice this when I was teeing it up on this hole, as somebody who plays golf quite often, if I do say so myself, and for quite a few years, my body is smart enough to know when to adjust to different circumstances and situations. I feel like naturally standing over this shot, my body did not feel comfortable aiming at the pin, and therefore I ended up aiming quite a bit right, trying to play for a draw that usually happens when the ball is above my feet. So I think these little things can definitely play an important role. Knowing what lie you're going to be hitting off helps you predict what kind of shot is going to happen, and therefore lets you swing more freely. Whereas if you don't know what to expect, your body might naturally try to compensate, especially if you're an experienced golfer. The next tip that I'm going to give you is not necessarily a tip, but I think it's an important thing for people to understand. It's kind of relevant to the first tip that I gave, and that is to remember that yes, even pros miss shots all the time. In fact, we rarely ever hit perfect shots or pull off a shot that we would exactly love to pull off on every single tee box, fairway, green. What we do on the range is try to make our swings as good as possible so that when we're on the golf course, we reduce our margin of error. So we're not out there trying to hit perfect swings, perfect shots. We're just trying to hit a shot as good as we possibly can. I think the biggest difference between professionals and amateurs in terms of when it comes to shot making is the margin of error between their shots. So when we miss a shot, we try to reduce our margin of error as much as possible so that we do not lose strokes when we miss shots. So this can be a bit of a combination of the tips, but for instance, aiming to the wider side of the fairway based on your shot shape, based on the club that you're hitting, and knowing that if you were to miss it a little bit, or even if you miss it a lot, chances are you're not going to be in a hazard or in an out of bounds, which is obviously going to lose you at least one stroke per hole. So it is a combination of technique as well as course management, which, as we all know, is essentially what makes up a score in golf. I think that not only are a lot of people trying to pull off the perfect shot, but they don't consider where their margins of error are. And similarly, when they go to the driving range to work on their swings, they're never working on reducing that margin of error, whereas they're just trying to see the perfect shots, trying to pull off the perfect shots. I think that this is not only unnecessary, but creates expectations that are very difficult on the golf course. Because if you're trying to pull off the perfect shot, you're gonna be very disappointed during golf. So I think it's important to know that when it comes to golf, it's not about hitting perfect shots, it's about reducing your margin of error. And the next tip that I'm gonna give you is to put that ego away, stop focusing on the long drive, and to improve your short game. At the end of the day, the thing that gets the ball in the hole is the putter, and like I've said multiple times on this course vlog, you're not going to hit perfect shots, and when you don't hit perfect shots, what you're going to need is a good short game to back you up. Yes, having a good long game can definitely help in terms of reducing your score, but when it comes to improving, the easiest part of the game to technically work on is your short game because you require a much smaller stroke than, for instance, a full swing. Having good short game technique and then developing the right feel is going to make golf so much more fun. There's nothing better than being able to be creative around the golf course, to see different shots and to pull off different shots. And although people might be impressed by somebody who can drive it 300 yards, most people are more impressed by somebody who could shoot a lower score. At the end of the day, would you rather hit it 300 yards and shoot 84, or hit it 250 yards but have a great short game and be able to shoot 74? A big difference in scoring definitely comes from the short game. So if you want to improve in your scoring, you definitely need to work on your short game. The next tip that I'm going to give you is kind of an odd tip, I would say, but I think it's something pretty important, and that is to really channel your focus to right before you hit the ball. So to expand a little bit more on this, I feel like a lot of people, especially when they're playing social games, find it difficult to focus throughout the round. Obviously, when you're playing with your friends, you want to interact with them and you want to have a fun time, which is great. Golf is one of those games where you're spending long hours with your playing partners, so you might as well enjoy it. I always encourage people to have fun when they're playing golf, and I get asked this question a lot when I play with other people, especially when I'm playing with amateur golfers. People often ask me how I maintain my focus during a round when I'm playing with, for instance, amateur golfers who maybe don't take the game as seriously as I do. So one of the things that I would say is very important to understand is that you do not have to be focused during an entire round of golf. In fact, it's almost impossible for you to be focused during an entire round of golf because golf is a very long game. The only time that you need to be focused is that few seconds before hitting your ball. I feel like this is something that a lot of amateur golfers can benefit from because I think that it kind of goes on both ends of the spectrum. So I see some golfers who are extremely focused. They take golf maybe a little bit too seriously throughout the entire round, and I think it really drains them and they do not have as much fun playing golf. In order to play good golf, you only really need to focus that few seconds before and during a shot, so you don't have to focus for the entire 4.5 hours. On the opposite end, there are people who are not focused at all, and I think this definitely affects them as well because they don't even know what shot they're hitting before they hit it or when they're over the ball. So what I'm trying to say here is that golf is a game where you are meant to have fun. However, I think that there is a few seconds, maybe a maximum of 10 seconds before the shot, and of course when you're over the ball, that you do need to be focused, that you do need to be able to pick a target, to know what club you're hitting, to make sure that you're committed to the target that you're hitting, to be able to produce the best possible shot that you can, especially if you're serious about improving your scores. This is why I've always mentioned the pre-shot routine and the importance of it, because during this pre-shot routine, and it doesn't have to be a long pre-shot routine, but it's during this time that you gather your focus and prepare yourself for the shot at hand. So in a nutshell, I guess what I'm saying here is to make sure that you are focused when you need to be, which is not during an entire round of golf, but it's that few seconds before and during a shot. Implement a pre-shot routine that you can use throughout a round. If you don't want to take a practice swing, don't. However, you need to know what shot you're going to hit, what club you want to hit, and how far you're going to hit it before you hit a shot. Knowing this important information, being able to execute the shot, whether or not you pull it off, is going to give you a much higher success rate than if you were to either be mentally drained before you even hit a shot or to have completely no idea what you're doing out there. So definitely find a sweet spot, and I think that you will see a big difference in the way that your scoring is maybe not only improved but becomes more consistent because you avoid silly mistakes that you maybe make quite often during a round of golf. The final tip, and probably the most important tip in this video, and it's one that I'm also constantly working on, is to focus on the process rather than the outcome. When you have a solid process, a solid pre-shot routine, when you've picked your target, your club, it is very important to stay in the moment to execute the shot and not try to control the result. It's very easy to focus on what's out there, especially when there's so much out there on a golf course, and to forget to control what you can control, which is yourself. And I think that this is one of the most important things in golf, and one that really changes the way that people play the game. I think it's one of those things that's seemingly simple, and I think a lot of people might know about it but not really understand how difficult it is to actually execute it. But I think it's one of those where you will really see an improvement in your game. You'll reduce your margin of error by hitting more committed shots. You're going to see those scores lowered simply by sticking to the process and by controlling what you can control, which is yourself. You're just going to enjoy golf more and start shooting better scores. I like how we just like paused.